All right, we'll begin. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
And you can. Good evening, Isha. Can you see the slides on the screen as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you guys have any questions, please hold the questions, and while after maybe 10-15 minutes of presenting, I'll give you an option to ask questions. Then shoot your questions, and after that, we'll continue presentation. The reason I ask is because otherwise there are interruptions. So I would like to avoid that, and we'll take questions periodically.
Ma'am, your voice is breaking.
My voice is breaking. Okay, just a second. Is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We'll continue with the presentation for the day. Right. Today we're going to discuss resume writing. We will go through the content and the structure of a resume. We will see how to craft a compelling resume, how to design and format a resume, and what are cover letters and references, what should their format be, what should you include in them. Now, a resume is a short, concise document which will summarize your education, your work experiences, your skills, and your achievements in 2 to 3 pages. Usually, you need to draft a resume in order to apply for a job, a research position, when you want to make an application for a master's degree or a PhD, something of that sort. Okay? The purposes of a resume is to outline your relevant skills and your experience. Now, the word relevant is very important here. You should include in a resume those experiences and those skills which will be applicable to you in the position to which you are applying. If, for example, I am applying to, let's say, a research position, and I happen to have very good driving skills, that will not count as a relevant skill in that particular position. So be aware of what are the skills which will be required of you in that specific position to which you are applying. A resume should display the benefits that you offer to your employers. It should tell them what are the things that you bring to the table. It should be able to grab the attention of employers. It should outline your achievements in such a manner that you appear to perfectly match the job description that the employers are uh, putting out. Okay. Ideally, the resume that you use for an application should be able to lead you to an interview. Now, there are two words, a resume and then there is a curriculum vitae or a CV. What are the differences between a resume and a CV? Mostly, these two words. Give me a moment. Somebody wants to join the meeting. The reason I'm not switching on my video is because I do not want any connectivity issues to cause a disruption in the presentation. If after a while I feel like the connection is secure, then I will switch on my video. Mostly, the words resume and curriculum vitae are used interchangeably, and for all practical purposes, they are interchangeable. However, there are a few differences. The first difference is that a resume tends to be slightly shorter than a CV. Resume is 2 to 3 pages long, whereas a CV can be longer than 3 pages if required. Okay, there is no standard length there. The second difference relates to the experiences and the career type for which you are applying. Okay. Resume is primarily used for non-academic positions such as in public or private sectors of business. Okay. You're trying to get a job and this is primarily related to business. This is not an academic position for which you are applying. What are academic positions? Academic positions could be positions of teaching, research, higher education, etc. Okay? If you're applying for a non-academic positions, typically they will ask you for a resume, whereas for an academic position, CVs are invited. Why might that be? Any guesses as to why CVs are more welcome in an academic position? Would anybody like to answer? Any guesses as to why CVs are more welcome in an academic position? In academic positions, usually you will have to outline a great deal more of information. If, for example, you're applying for a position of a researcher, you will have to outline all of the research projects that will be relevant to this position, of course, that you have been a part of. So there will be a lot of content to incorporate into that CV. That is why typically academic positions ask for a CV rather than a resume. A resume tends to be more condensed. Okay? The difference between a resume and CV can also be made on the basis of your geographical location. If not required, kindly turn off your videos. But if for some reason you feel like there is a need to turn on the video, please drop a message or raise your hand or something. Tell me the reason and then turn on your video. In places like South Africa, India, and Australia, resumes are preferred, whereas in places like New Zealand, the UK, and parts of Europe, CV or curriculum vitae are preferred. Now we are trying to see what the content of a resume is and how it can be structured. What are the essential sections of the resume? What information should you add to a resume in order to catch the eye of the people who are hiring you? You should add your contact information. These are sections that should not be omitted. You cannot avoid these sections. You should add a resume objective or a resume summary, not both, either a resume objective or a resume summary. We'll see the difference between a resume objective and the resume summary in a little while. You should add your educational details. What are the qualifications that you have? Where did you get these qualifications from? If you have a really good CGPA, make sure to list that as well. What sort of work experiences do you have? What are the skills that you possess? And what are some of the relevant achievements that you have? Now, I think somebody had asked me in one of the past sessions where such icons can be secured from. Like, where do you get such icons which can be used in a slide? The answer to that is most of these are non copyrighted clip art images and you can freely download them. But it is always ideal to edit these non copyrighted generic images or icons to suit your requirements. So you use some sort of a software which can customize the image or the icon for you. That is how you use these icons on a slide. Now, I don't remember who asked me the question. I just wanted to put it out there just in case it helps you. Okay. Now, this is an example of how you can list out your uh, qualifications or experiences or other achievements. When do you add your CGPA or your GPA? You add your GPA if and only if it is on the high side. You don't want to minimize your chances of getting the job by putting a very low CGPA or a GPA on your resume. Now, 3.2 is on a 4-point scale. Most of the universities in India follow a 10-point scale, so calculate accordingly. If you feel like your CGPA is something that works to your advantage, then put it on your resume. Otherwise, omit it. It is unlikely that somebody is going to ask you your GPA if you have other relevant skills or if you can illustrate that you have sufficient experience to perform very well in this position. Now, you can list out any academic honors or awards that you have, any related certificates that you have, any scholarships that you have secured, international experiences, licensures. Licensures, it's a very professional word to use. Are you a licensed practitioner of something or the other? Okay. So this is not something that is applicable to everybody. If you happen to be a licensed practitioner of something, then you can list out your licensure there. What related training do you have? What skills have you acquired? This is something that everybody should mandatorily include in their resume. A thesis or a senior project is something that you accomplish as a part of a degree. For example, everybody will have to do a master's project. I'm not sure if everybody has to mandatorily do a bachelor's project, but everybody will have to mandatorily do a master's project. If you have done a PhD, you would have produced a thesis as a part of that PhD, that research work. So either of these can count as a project which can be included in your resume. Any experiences such as any part-time jobs that you've had, internships, campus involvement, if you've freelanced for somebody, if you've freelanced on any project, if you volunteered somewhere, if you have some kind of clinical experience or practical experience, that if you have been the recipient of any kind of an award or an honor, if you've completed any kind of training, if you have any leadership experiences, if you have been the part of a membership or an organization, you can list any or all of these parameters, or rather these heads, on your resume, provided it is relevant to the job for which you're applying, provided these are things that apply to you as an individual. Okay, I hope that is clear. Additionally, you can list out any technical or computer skills that you might have. As data scientists, this might be a very important parameter in your resume. Any publications that you might have had, any extra languages that you speak or that you are very proficient in, volunteering work, international experiences, and course projects are things that we already discussed. These need not be mandatorily included in your resume, but if you feel like there is anything that stands out, and anything that is greatly relevant to the position for which you're applying, make sure to list these out on your resume as well. How do you tailor a resume or you customize a resume for a job application? Why should you customize your resume in the first place? Satyaprakash, your mic is on again. Okay. Okay, let me pause for a second. Does anybody have any questions so far related to today's presentation or general questions? Anything that you might want to ask? Nothing. Okay. Satyaprakash, I really want you to mute your mic unless you actually want to say something. Okay. You customize your resume so that you invite the employer's attention to the things that you bring to the table, which answer. This is very disruptive. Satyaprakash,
Ma'am, you can mute from your side.
पेपर का बहुत 4 तारीख को है ना है 4 तारीख से हाँ रिकॉर्ड तो 4 तारीख से आज पढ़ रहा हूँ तो
okay, you need to customize your resume so as to invite your employer's attention to their specific needs, the specific needs that they have listed out on the job description, which you as an applicant are capable of answering. Remember that an employer is looking for something and you are providing something. So, by helping the employer focus on those specific aspects of your career or of your experience, which fit the needs of the JD or the job description, you are furthering or increasing your chances of landing that job. You are essentially saying, whatever it is that you need of an employee, my skills are capable of catering to those needs. Okay? That is why you need to customize your resume for each job application. Customization can also help you to pass applicant tracking systems. Applicant tracking systems is software. Now they look for specific buzzwords, specific phrases that stand out, or specific needs that the employer has advertised for. These software filter out resumes which do not claim to have those skills. Okay? So if you customize your resume for each job application, you ensure that you are not automatically rejected by an applicant tracking system. Customization also shows that you're invested in the opportunity. It shows that you have studied the specific need for which they have advertised and that you are willing to respond to those needs. Okay? It shows that you're very interested. You're eager to get that job. These are all qualities that are very much valued in an applicant. That is why we need to customize our resume for each job application. To give you an example, if the firm is looking for leadership, then give them examples of leadership positions which you've handled in the past. You can also use relevant keywords to pass through the applicant tracking systems. Keywords are those words which are also used in the JD. So essentially, you're trying to produce an alignment between the JD and your resume. Use those same words, and you have a higher chance of being selected for an interview. When you craft a resume or when you design a resume, Make sure to effectively utilize the space of 2 to 3 pages to provide as much of information about yourself in the most coherent and easily readable manner possible. Okay? Now, earlier we saw that we should include either a resume objective or a resume summary. There is a difference between a resume objective and a resume summary. This is something that we are going to see now. Both of these provide a brief introduction to your resume. They show that you have the necessary qualifications for the role. But a resume summary is more suitable if you have several years of experience and you just want to summarize the most impressive or the most significant career achievements that you have had so far. Remember, you have several years of experience, so you couldn't possibly list out all of that in your resume. So you are very selective. You're only picking and choosing the things that are most relevant so as to summarize the experiences that you have. Resume objective, on the other hand, is more suitable if you are a fresher, an entry level candidate. And here you want to highlight how the skills that you have, the education that you have, and your ambition or your drive can be beneficial to the company or to your employer. Okay? So it's not that they serve different purposes, it is more that they cater to different needs in terms of the candidate profile. You would want to summarize your experiences if you have several years of experience. You would want to highlight every skill that you have with you if you are an entry level applicant. Okay, that is the difference between a resume objective and a resume summary. When to use which? You use a resume objective when you are changing careers or when you are entering the workforce for the first time. Or when there has been a significant gap in your employment history. Now, when you are changing careers, you use a resume objective essentially simply because you would like to acknowledge that the skills and the experiences that you've had so far might not be the skills that would be immediately relevant to the new position that you are applying for. So here once again, it's like you're starting from square one. So you want to highlight every single achievement or every single skill that you have in your kitty, which would cater to the needs of the new career that you are looking into, right? So you are acknowledging that your old achievements might not be the most relevant here, but you also have new skills which will be very beneficial to your employer if they choose you. In addition to that, you have several years of experience working in another area, and that does add a lot of character to use to yourself as an applicant. For example, things like working in a team, problem solving, critical thinking. All of these are not discipline specific skills. These are all skills that you acquire through experience, however. So you could claim that you have all of these skills, plus you have all the technical skills, the discipline specific, domain specific skills that are required in the new area which you're looking to join. When you are entering the workforce for the first time or when you are changing careers, you would use a resume objective. When you have several years of experience, if you change jobs frequently, when you're applying for a senior level role, or when you're applying for the same role with a different company, you're not changing your area of expertise. Under all of these conditions, you would use a resume summary. Remember that you would use a summary when you have a lot of things which you would like to summarize. Several years, several jobs. You don't want to list out that I've changed jobs so many times. Rather, you just want to summarize the key positions, key responsibilities that you've handled. You're applying for a senior level role. So you need to demonstrate not only that you have several years of experience, but that you also have necessary achievements, all the most desirable skills that somebody in a senior level role would be possessing. Right. These are just two examples. The first is an example of a resume objective. Let's read through that. Ambitious, self motivated candidate with experience in financial reporting and modeling and a master's degree in finance. Knowledge of various accounting software programs. Looking for a position as a finance analyst where I can use my skills to achieve organizational goals. Resume summary, on the other hand, detail oriented chartered professional accountant with over 9 years of experience maintaining accurate accounting information for large organizations. Highly analytical professional with extensive accounting software knowledge. Work history includes positions in central banks and investment companies, managing diverse functions as a financial team member. Now, if you're an entry level applicant, you can uh, feel overwhelmed by, or you can feel taken aback by a resume summary. You'll always feel like you're not qualified enough for this job when you see a resume summary simply because it lists out several years of experience. Do not be taken aback by a resume summary. An industry is always aware of the fact that there are applicants at the entry level and there are applicants at an advanced level. Okay? So, the fact that you produce a resume objective is never going to work against you. The only thing is that you should produce a very good resume objective. You should list out that you have the necessary skills and that you possess the necessary drive in order to excel in this position. Are you able to understand? Do you have any questions? Prashant is always able to understand everything. Are you able to understand, all of you, the rest of you? Okay. Thank you, Prashant and Swati, Himanshu, and Disha. Okay, thank you. Uh, I will rest assured that you have understood so far, and we will go ahead. The STAR method. The STAR method is something that you can use in order to structure your resume. The STAR method simply lists out situation, task, action, and result. Now, I'm not sure if I discussed it with you, but there was a STARS method elsewhere. I forgot if I discussed it with you. Never mind. STAR method is situation, task, action, and result. Situation simply means what was the situation or challenge that you had to face. Task, what task were you involved in? What were your responsibilities and goals? Action, what actions did you specifically take to achieve this task? And how did the actions that you took, how did the actions that you take contribute to your team's efforts? What results did these actions produce? When you list out the results that your actions produced, you need to make sure that this is not with regard to just yourself as an individual. Rather, you should be able to clearly outline how it benefited the team for which you are working. Okay, so these are not individual goals, rather, these should be group goals or collective goals or organizational goals. This is an example of how to use the STAR method in writing a resume. What are the skills or qualities that you want to show? Let's assume that the skills or qualities that you want to show are initiative, organization, analytical thinking, writing, interpersonal skills, and problem solving. In order to show that you have these skills, you provide the example of a situation that you faced and rectified. For example, the trainees were learning too slowly and could not navigate the company's data tracking system by the end of the 2-week training period. Instead, they were not ready for another 2 weeks. So, what is your task in this situation? You help trainees learn the system faster. How do you do that? You take some sort of an action, right? You initiated, wrote, and edited the first training manual for the company's data tracking system. Then you successfully presented a proposal to use the manual in front of your company management. You revised the training program for the employees so as to implement the new manual, and trainees worked through the manual during the 2-week training period. And what result did you achieve? At the end of the training period, trainees were ready to use the data tracking system 2 weeks earlier than expected, and the training manual was adopted across the company and it is still in use. Now, what I want you to pay attention to in this example is that you started off from the skills that you want to highlight. So you know, on the basis of the job description, what are the skills that you should be highlighting on your resume. So you start from the skills, you think back into your own career, and you pick out a situation that would be ideal to show or to demonstrate that you have the skills that the JD requires of you. Okay? Think out a situation, identify what the situation was, what the task was, what action you took, and what result you produced. At the end of this, you will have a great chunk of information. And the idea is not to add all of that information onto your resume. Rather, the idea is to condense that information into points which will stand out in your resume. Initiated, wrote, and edited the first training manual for company's data tracking system, which cut the training period in half and was adopted across the company and is still in use today. That is all you write in your resume. It is always important to use action words. Now, what are action words? Action words are verbs, right? Verbs are action words, nouns are naming words, just the basics of English, right? Verbs are action words. When you write a resume or when you edit a great chunk of information so that you have a final statement to put into your resume, make sure that this statement is hinging on action words. You need to highlight all the things that you did. Okay? There might be other words which can be omitted from that statement. You do not need a lot of words. You don't have to make it very wordy, but you need to make sure that the action words stand out. Let's go back to this example. Initiated, that is a verb, that is an action word. Wrote, again a verb. Edited, another verb. What did you edit? Now, that is not an action word, but that is 3 action words that you see at the beginning of the sentence. Was adopted. Again, that is an action word. Okay? Is still in use. You don't have an action word there, rather, you still have a verb, is still in use, continues to be used today. Okay? So, all of these action words that are included in this statement give the impression that you have been actively involved in doing things. So there is no lag whatsoever. It is the most condensed way in which you can convey maximum possible information about your experiences and your skills. That is why action words are very relevant in the context of a resume. Okay, before I go into the next slide, I want you to take a good look at all the action words that you see on the slide, and then I want you to give me sentences that are related to your experiences so far. Okay, use a relevant action word from the boxes in front of you and give me a sentence from your own experience so far using that action word. Ideally, this should be a kind of sentence, the kind of sentence that will go into your resume. Do you understand the question? Do you understand the question?
Ma'am, can you repeat once again?
Yes. The action words or the verbs that you see on the slide in front of you are all the kind of action words which can be used in a resume in order to highlight the skills that you have. Okay? So I want you to use any one of the action words. One person only has to use one action word. Any one of the action words in front of you and give me a sentence that describes your experience or your skills such that you will be such that you have a statement which can be put into your own resume. Is it clear enough? Would you like an example?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to use an action word that is not in the table here, something that is relevant to me. I edited the college magazine, right? So I could say edited, proofread, and curated the content of the college magazine XYZ, released in the year, some year, 2020, 2022, 2023 maybe. We don't know. Okay. So this is a way in which I am using action words. What action words did I use? Edited, proofread, and curated the content. Do you understand that? Edited, proofread, and curated the content of the college magazine. 3 action words which I use in one statement, which shows some of the skills that I have as an applicant, and I want to highlight those skills. So I'll put a statement like this in my resume. Is that clear enough?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now try forming a sentence like that on your own, a sentence that is relevant to your life so far, your experiences so far. It can be anything. You can also use words that are not here in the table. The table is
Designed,
just for your reference.
developed, and tested event tracking system for
What?
the web services application I built for my client.
Can you repeat that sentence once again?
Designed, developed, and tested
Designed, developed, and tested. Okay. And designed, developed, and tested what?
event tracking system
Event tracking system.
for the web services built for client XYZ.
Okay. Very good. So ideally, you can stop with event tracking systems. You do not have to mention client XYZ. Okay, you can stop with event child existence because we want sentences that are as short as possible. But that was a very good example. I hope all of you heard that. Designed, developed, and tested. Three very important skills that Gaurav can claim that he has on the basis of his experiences so far. Right? Those are the kind of sentences that go into your resume. Somebody else has given an answer. Himanshu has given an answer here. I authored this research work independently and also presented it to the guests at the national conference. Okay, we can cut that, we can edit that further. Authored and presented independent research work at national conference. Now, if it is a national conference, you want to include the name of the national conference there, because otherwise it sounds like a very generic statement. Okay, authored and presented independent research work at XYZ national conference. Very good, Himanshu. Anybody else?
Ma'am, one comment here, or maybe a question to you here on this
Go
specific
on,
line. Um,
go on.
you stated that it should be authored and presented independent research work. Instead of
Authored
how,
and presented.
yeah, how
Yes.
would it be? I'm not commenting on the nature of the work or what actually might have happened, but just comparing this alternative, independently authored and presented research work at the national conference.
That works.
But these two sentences have different meanings, isn't it?
No,
Aren't
they
you sure?
don't.
One states that the uh, independent research work, and one brings the independent part at the front. Independently authored and presented research
That
work.
doesn't that doesn't change the meaning of the sentence, right?
Okay.
It's just independently is used there as an adverb. So even
In
in
the
the
in
first
the
sentence,
alternative, yes, that is an adverb, but uh,
okay,
in the version that you mentioned, that is an adjective for the research work.
how does that change the meaning?
Well, the research work itself was supposed to be done independently,
Yes.
and the other version, the second version, states that uh, doesn't comment upon the research work as such, or the role or the ambit of research work, but it says that I did it independently.
Well, the thing is, uh, I don't see the difference. Let me put it that way. Okay, I don't see whether there is a difference between the two phrasings. So I will say use whichever one you feel more comfortable with. Okay, and independent research work implies that you did it yourself. The research work is something that you did yourself. Okay,
That
but
might
if
might
you're
not have been, means independent research work might have been like not authorized by any third party or any external person. Independent research work,
oh, you're trying to say that it might not have been in affiliation to any institution.
that might imply that. And when we say independently researched and presented,
It doesn't imply that. Because to me, it sounds like it.
independently authored and presented research work at the national
Independent
conference.
authored and presented research work at national conference. Once again, I don't think the second sentence states an institutional affiliation. Do you see that?
Yeah, that's true. But when put into the context where we are, means if we are using this sentence in this resume, um, under one of the companies where I have worked, then was it an initiative taken by oneself on his on one's own desire, or was
Okay,
it?
the ideal way to resolve this would be to add more information to the sentence itself. Okay, and you can't, it might not be something that can be corrected with just a rephrasing or a rearrangement
Yeah.
of words within the sentence. So, if you feel like there is this ambiguity, you can add further details. If there is an institutional affiliation which you would like to spell out, add that detail to it. And that might not be a bad idea at all, especially in the case of research. Spelling out your institutional affiliation can be very beneficial. So, that is something that I would suggest you can do. Otherwise, choose the phrasing whichever you feel comfortable with. Ideally, I would go with the one that begins with the verb. But
Okay.
if it is the second one that you feel more comfortable with, feel free to choose that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any more questions? Okay. I didn't get any more answers. Can somebody else give me an answer or a sentence from regarding their own life experiences, skills, which uses a few action words?
There's one
Anybody who
mentioned
would
in
like to?
chat box, ma'am.
I designed, created, and supervised my team dashboard over chart paper in FEA. Now, that's a lot of jargon, and I'm not quite understanding it. Nivash, could you please explain to me what that means? Are you here, Nivash? Okay. But yes, Nivash, that is also a very good example. Designed, created, and supervised my team. That is a very good example. The only thing that I
I
would
mean,
suggest by way of a change is that you might want to rearrange the elements in that sentence, because it looks like you designed your team, you created your team. That might not be what you necessarily want to say. So, be careful about what it is that you designed and created and whom it is that you are supervising. That change will be, ideally you should be more aware of what noun connects with what verb. That is all. Other than that, no other suggestions. Very good. Anybody else? Nothing. Okay, let's go on. When you are drafting a resume, always try to show rather than tell. And by show, it simply means illustrate with examples. Okay? Never just tell the employer what you are like, show them with examples and let the examples describe you. For example, if you say, I am a hardworking person with great organizational skills, that sounds like a very generic statement. On the other hand, if you say, I was elected the president of my club's finance committee, I was responsible for the accounts of 24 members and a yearly house budget of rupees 5 lakhs. It shows that you are hardworking. It also shows that you're responsible. It demonstrates that you have great organizational skills. If you say, I am a responsible student, that is a generic statement. If, on the other hand, you say, in my 2 semesters, I have taken 31 credits and maintained my 3.7 GPA, you show whoever it is that is hiring you that you have been consistently responsible throughout the course of your term or your degree, right? So, it is important to use examples that sufficiently demonstrate what you are or what you have by way of skills rather than making statements that sound generic and not specifically uh, in relation to your own experiences. Make sure to be as specific, as pointed as possible when you are drafting sentences for your resume. How do you design and format a resume? What kind of fonts should you be using in order to make your resume look professional? Where can you find the resume templates? By way of tips, you should always avoid long paragraphs, always write in bulleted points. If there is something that you would like to highlight, use bold face. Use the same font combination across all slides. You can use a combination of sans serif and serif fonts. Serif fonts are those fonts which have a decorative extension at the tip of the letter form. Sans serif fonts, on the other hand, do not have that decorative element. For headings, sans serif fonts are preferred. For running text, serif fonts are preferred. But that is not to say that sans serif fonts cannot be used for running text. This is just standard practice. Sometimes it is easier to read running text if you use a serif font. Okay? The font that you see on this screen is a sans serif font, both the heading and the text. Try not to use fonts that look too informal. For example, Comic Sans. If your font looks very informal, try to avoid using that font. When you want to bring out any figures, use those numbers rather than writing them out in words. These numbers tend to jump out on a page of text. So these numbers or the figures that you put down on your resume, they will immediately capture the attention of the person who is hiring you. Use parallelisms. Now I will stop here. I will continue with what Gaurav, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, ma'am. I mean, I'm not sure if this remarks is valid or not, but still, I would like means as initiator of a discussion. So the second sentence is bolden key information. Bolden as a word and what it qualifies key information. Shouldn't it be key information in bold?
Gaurav, that doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
Golden key information gives the same sense as use key information or present key information in bold fields. It's the same. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Right. I will stop with parallelism for today and we will start off with what are parallelisms in our next session. Let's just quickly go back and um, run through the key points that we have discussed in today's presentation. The resume should be 2 to 3 pages in length. It should be able to summarize your education, your work experience, your skills, and your achievements. You need to customize your resume such that it fits the job description. It should match you to the position, and ideally, it should lead you to an interview. There might be some sort of a difference between a resume and a CV, primarily related to length and the kind of career for which you're applying. But for the most part, resume and CV are used interchangeably. The geographic location in which you are present can also influence whether or not you're asked to submit a resume or a CV for an application. Be aware of this because sometimes it can be a make it or break it deal when you are making an application. When you are structuring your resume, there are some sections which are necessary, which you cannot omit. These are contact information, resume objective or summary, and your education. You should include your work experience, your skills, and any relevant achievements that you have. Include your GPA if it is on the higher side. If you feel like your GPA is working to your disadvantage, omit including that. List out any relevant certificates, scholarship, international experiences, licensures, volunteer work that you've done, clinical experiences that you may have had, part-time jobs or internships that you might have served, and any awards that you may have received. If you have relevant technical or computer skills, do not omit them, add them into your resume. Any relevant publications can also be added. Uh, Language proficiency in multiple languages usually can also be mentioned in a resume. You need to tailor your resume to the need that is advertised in the job description. It helps you get past applicant tracking systems. It also shows that you are invested in this job opportunity. When you craft a resume, you might use either a resume objective or a resume summary. Resume objective is more suitable for somebody who's started, or if you are shifting from one career to another. A resume summary is more suitable if you have several years of experience and you would simply like to summarize your key achievements or the key roles in which you have served, because there is a lot to summarize. Remember that a summary is for somebody who is very, very experienced with several years of experience. Objective, on the other hand, is for somebody who might be a fresher. The STAR method is something that you can use in order to help you in structuring or constructing your resume. You imagine yourself in a specific situation, the task that you need to do in that situation to overcome any issue or problem that you might be facing there. What action did you do in order to do that? And what result did these actions produce, not just for yourself, but for the team, for the collective, as a collective goal, as an organizational benefit. You start not from the situation per se, rather you think back to the job description. You think about what the skills or qualities that you want to highlight are, and then you identify any situation that you might have faced in your experience so far that highlights those specific skills or qualities. Give detailed information about that situation. What was the task that you needed to accomplish there? What action did you take and what result did you produce? Whatever chunk of information that you produce at the end of this analysis is something that you need to edit by giving prominence to action words or verbs, and it is this edited, concise statement that you add to your resume. These are examples of action words that you can use to highlight specific skills in your resume. I will stop here. I hope this session helps. Please tell some authentic websites for ATS check. If you mean getting through applicant tracking systems, you can do that quite simply by making sure that your resume. Sorry, I didn't see the question here. Let me answer that question and quickly wonder. By making sure that your resume contains the keywords that the job description also contains. Okay. With regard to Himanshu's question, a small request, I wanted to make the recordings of the previous lectures of this workshop series is not accessible. Can you please make the recordings accessible? It would be really helpful. Now, about the YouTube channel, and the videos are supposed to be uploaded to the YouTube channel. If you are unable to access, if the videos are not yet uploaded, they will be uploaded. If for some reason you're unable to access the videos, then please write to the support team. Those are not things that I can help you with. Kindly write to the support team, they will help you. Okay, these are my answers. We will conclude today's session, and I hope this was beneficial for you. There are some websites which give a mere idea of how much score your resume gives while checking ATS. Okay, let me look into that. We will carry forward, we will carry today's discussion forward. We will carry today's discussion forward in tomorrow's session, and I'll try to give you more information in tomorrow's session. I hope that's sufficient. Okay. I hope today's session was helpful to all of you. Thank you very much for joining the session.
I just have one comment.
Gaurav, can you do this tomorrow?
Because it is regarding tomorrow's timing only. Tomorrow's we do have an OPPE as well scheduled during the evening hours, like 4:30 to 6:30.
What is an OPPE? Can you tell me what that is?
Online proctored programming exam.
Oh, you have an exam tomorrow.
I mean,
Okay,
that is, yeah.
let me try speaking with the coordinators, and if there is any change, they will inform you. Okay,
Sure, ma'am. Yeah, this is
we
a
will have
mandatory
a
part of our course that we are undertaking
okay.
uh, in this program.
If there is any change, it will be informed to you. Anyhow, we will carry on with today's discussion in the second session. There will be another session as well. The link given in the calendar, any issues with regard to the link, you have to write to the support team. They will address those issues. I hope that is
But
clear. I wish
ma'am,
you all
there
a
is no link
yes.
for previous session.
There is no link.
Yes, ma'am, for recording.
Okay, I'll clarify. I'll try to ask the coordinators. I'll clarify what is the status of those videos, and then I'll try to inform you if I receive any information. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Wish you all a pleasant evening ahead. Thank you, everybody, for joining the session.
Thank you, ma'am.